This is the fusion knot, and I have some confusion why cavers tend to love this and why climbers never seem to use it. And they use a Super 8. And then there's an entire cult around the Bowline on a bite. We are going to explore these double end loops, how they're tied, and then how they break. And the number one way to learn how to tie a knot is to make a YouTube video. And the second best way to learn how to tie a knot is grab a rope and practice doing this while I show you how to tie them. This is a fusion knot clipped to 2 different points here. And while I load this, while I come up to my thing, I can take my cow's tail, my personal anchors, and I can clip this really neat bridge here because this is not under load, it's not squeezing it. And when I get on my descender or rappel device, I can open this up and I can take this off and be clipped to both strands rather than being one strand doing this wonky stuff. As opposed to a Super 8 that if they get too wide, it's gonna be pretty hard to get both those strands. And then these are both under load, which means it's pinching my carabiner. So I could still do it because right now, these are not spread out that far. And it does get pretty tight in there. So if I were to fully load this, could get a lot harder to undo. And this is the infamous Bowline on a bite that in theory still has the same concept where they come together, they're not pinching, and you can clip that bridge there, except some are concerned that if it's not dressed or tightened properly and you clip one eye, that it might be dangerous.
Drop tester onto a Bowline on a bike, correctly dressed but not tightened on a wet road.
Now you'll notice this collar that goes around on this Bowline on a bite and how it links up to both of these tails. And there is a twist, and that's what makes these. You'll notice on the fusion knot that it also has this collar here, and that if I pull it, it's connected to those 2 tails, except this has an extra twist right here. And if I pull this collar and lift it over the whole thing, you'll notice that it's just a figure 8. For those who aren't not nerds, that is a bite of rope, and you're taking a figure 8 on a bite here by going around not just once, because once is an overhand, and that's how you do the Bowline on a bite. Nope, you do that one extra twist for that all familiar figure 8. Take the bite of rope and go over the knot. If you go over this side, you're doing nothing and you have a limp knot. So there's only one way to do that. You go over there and you bend it around, and you have the standing end here, the working end here. And if you held on to those and you think these are going to be your 2 loops, you're wrong, because you'd be pulling against your hand. And what you want to do is you want to grab the 2 loops that turn this collar and suck it up into this. So grab onto the working end and the standing end and pull up these 2 sides. Dress your knot so the internet doesn't get mad at you. And then you clip, and this is the side that you'd be clipping to. You'd be losing a lot of benefits if you clipped this side. So there is one way to clip this so it's facing out towards you. Now this is easy to adjust by just grabbing the collar and then adjusting the leg that you want in order to be pulling in the direction it needs to be pulling. And a Bowline on the bite is extremely similar. You don't do a figure 8, you do an overhand, and then you can't obviously go over itself except for one direction. You go over itself, you hang on to the standing end and the working end here, and then you figure out what your 2 bunny ears are gonna be, and there you go. Dress the knot, because I actually think this one matters, and then you have yourself a Bowline on a bite, and you can clip both, or you can clip one or the other, I think. And that's what we're going to test in this video. The Super 8 also has a collar right here, and it just is a bite of rope going through the 8. So it is actually tied differently, even though it is in the family of 8s. To tie a Super 8, you do not finish your figure 8. So you'll start your figure 8, and then instead of sticking this bite through here, you would take a bite of your bite and have biteception, and you stick that in there. And then you put that over the whole thing, grabbing the 2 loops that are very obvious what to grab, which is why I've enjoyed using this knot. And then you dress it so the internet doesn't get mad. But we've also done an entire video showing it doesn't matter. And if you need to adjust your bunny ears, you take the collar, which is up here, and you can pull one leg longer than the other and clip your anchor.
Credit where credit's due is Mike Hallrash came up with this knot for rope access or technical rescue, and then cavers seemed to adopt it. And I asked ChatGPT how to pronounce his name, and it said "caw" like spa. And so if you think of spa rash, you will always remember the name of this knot now. I am told that a fusion or Bowline on the bite is easier to untie than the Super 8 that I love. Let's find out if that's true. Welcome to my other man cave where we have our brake test machine operational. So let me show you what I got. We're gonna clip both these eyes to separate holes later, but this is the Super 8 versus the Fusion knot to see which one is going to be easier to untie when we change this to force and we want to go to 4 kilonewtons and at 500. Let's see if we can untie these. This is pretty sick.
Let's examine these. The Fusion knot, that does have, that shelf is still really nice. And this gets really tight in there, but you can see how that got deformed because you're only pulling one strand. Now, if I were to try to untie that, well, it's a stiff rope. That is easy enough to untie in this situation. I find that it's a big enough knot that when I'm climbing, it's okay. If it's really supple, it becomes difficult. This is very much like a Bowline where you could take that collar and then you can break the knot like that. And then everything becomes really easy to untie no matter how much load you put on it. So I think this rope can go up to at least 9 kN. Maybe we should do that and see if there's a difference. These were pulled up to 8 kilonewtons. I do like how that has a shelf if you're intending on clipping this. As far as untying the Fusion, break that. That seems easy enough. And it all comes apart, easy to untie. This one doesn't have a way to break off the tension easily. This collar you see right here is just the loose strand that wasn't pulled, this tail. So it doesn't do me any good. That right there is really tight. This is rock hard. Now, I don't know how many people are using this at 8 kilonewtons, but if it is supple, it would cinch down harder, faster. If you want to see a video on if a hammer weakens your rope, let me know, because that technically came undone. It just took a hammer. Let's do some brake tests on the Fusion knot now. For this test, I'm going to be using a 10mm semi-static rope because I have enough of it and I've tested it enough times to know that it breaks around 18 kilonewtons at a knot. And in order to get the little bit more strength out of the fixed side, the side that we're not testing, I'm gonna use this rigging plate. And then up here, we're gonna clip it to 2 different points, even though it's not a very big one, just because I don't want the stretch there. And that is the shelf right there. I think I dressed it correctly. Let me know if I didn't. That is a pretty average number that I get for this rope. Rigging plate survived. It broke right here. This is what I cut off for the sample. Okay, it broke where it got pinched and it's melted on there. We'll do that 2 more times. So that is typically lower than I've gotten before, and it broke up here, but I would call that super good enough. So knots have a big range in which they'll break. So when something typically breaks at 18 kilonewtons, I'll go from 15 to 22. So I'd say that's super strong enough. I don't think you're gonna be getting 16 or 18 anytime soon. And that's very dependent on the rope. It breaks correctly. Now, what happens if we clip that shelf and pull on just that with no load on the standing end? Let's see what happens. Okay, that's funny. I didn't know why it stopped. So our force limit that we set on here inside of the software is at 45, and it creeped over a little bit, which is why we don't set it at 50. And the reason it's so strong is because you have not only a loop, you have a double loop. You can see that extra twist right here.
is why it bites. Otherwise, it was collapsing and sucking that part in. Do we throw a bowline on a bite to see if it would fully collapse because the way that was collapsing, or do we go to the other machine? Oh, we should shit on the bowline on a bite real quick. I just pulled that off the machine. That is literally a double loop. No wonder that was so strong. Okay, we have our bowline on a bite. Judge my knot. And that's the shelf I'm clipping to. Let's see if it collapses or maxes out the machine. Wow, we got to 45. Holy shit, it held. We got to 47K in and now it's settling. And let's take the force off of that thing. That did not collapse. So let's go to the lab and pull on that fusion knot the rest of the way. Now, in order to break this loop, let's say it's gonna be about 18 kilonewtons times 4-ish, minus a little bit. So I have the strongest pulley that only weighs 5 pounds, that has a working load limit of 60 kN, and we have the SK99 Max whoopee that I just made. So there's the eye that's gonna be fixed on this side. There's the adjustable sling part of it, that's a whoopee, and I have a fid permanently attached to it. So that hydraulic pulls this dynamo through these 2 pulleys, and this is what usually pulls everything, except we're not pulling direct because I want more force. We are using that whoopee to this pulley, and that gets fixed over there, and it's an adjustable sling, so we're not losing any of the throw that we're gonna need to break this. This is rock hard now, so there's no untying it, even though it's an easy to untie knot. We also got this new load cell with this rubber protector, and the way that is formed in there, that wire is not going to get damaged as likely. And this is our new software, and it's gonna have pounds of force, and it's our own thing that is specifically going to help us display things better for you guys. No more computer over here. That is the max that thing goes to. Holy crap. That is a strong place to clip. That's way stronger than whatever personal ink or cowtail you clip to that. And that's the other half. It broke it in 2 pieces. Clipping both eyes is super good enough. I do not need to do 3 samples of that. What happens if you clip one eye? Fusion knot. 1 leg. That did bite down enough in order to not slip all the way. Let me show you how the bowline, when clipping 1 leg, failed like you saw earlier in the video with that human testing. If you have a bowline on a bite and it's dressed super good enough, but it's not tight, and you clip 1 leg like that, let's see what happens. Oh, that's a 10K in. I guess it depends on the leg you grab. Oh. Interesting. Okay, so that did not fail. But that would be a wild ride. Let's try it on the other leg. Wow. So I was able to get that to happen yesterday, but I think it was because it was super loose and I pulled the right thing the right way. Maybe I don't know how likely that's gonna happen in real life. Maybe the bowline on the bite's just fine. I like the fact the fusion locks itself up a little bit better with that extra twist. Let me show you one concern I have. Are these legs redundant if this was rubbing on something and this got cut? Because you see the collar here, if I pull it tight, there's nothing really other than just this pinching it, keeping it from coming undone if one side was cut. Let's go cut a side and pull the standing end. So we have 1K in on this fusion knot, and that is the shelf right there. But what happens if you have abrasion? Let's pull on that. Oh wow, it's holding. Wow. And we're dead. If you consistently put an unrealistic force on your rope, I guess it all really depends on the rope you're using. Because if I did something slippery like HMPE and you cut a strand, that would come undone with almost no effort. Everything I just said about Dynamo is wrong. It didn't slip after I cut the legs. Super redundant enough. I wish your comments were already in the comment section so I knew what to test next. Every time I make a knot video, I read something in the comments where I was like, oh, you're right, I should have tested that. I don't think it'd be realistic to take the two ears and pull them out and do the splits, but we could do that next. I think what's different between climbing and caving with this is that cavers have the anchors kind of all over the place because they usually have a ceiling and a back wall and a this. Climbing is very two-dimensional. It's right here. And then caving is very three-dimensional. And so you might have a leg sticking way up over there and a little bit over here. And so you kind of have to clip this master point that's created by those two ears coming together. And I don't know, do you guys think the fusion knot has a place in climbing? Let's pull the ears apart, see what happens. If gravity was this way, that carabiner would be the shelf and we'd be splitting these legs apart. So let's pull them and see what happens. Whoa, 30K in. It did not break there. It did not break there. It broke up here. Okay, I'm gonna drink the knot Kool-Aid. It is funny to me when people say they invented a knot, which they might have been the first person in their group to have done it. But boats and civilizations have been around for a very long time and have played with ropes. Now that is a figure 8. And if you go around one more time, you can make a figure 9. And does that mean an overhand is a figure 7? But if you took it over the top there and you grab those two strands and you pulled that over that, and if you love your knot stable and untieable, you could now say that I invented the confusion. So there's your collar. There's a full 8, and those are your ears. And I bet you that's real stable. Maybe I just don't understand what they mean when they say, I invented this knot, because the list of people who have invented knots is a bunch of old white dudes, and I just don't think they were the only people who have been tying knots. I'm gonna get myself canned here. The only people that make it to the end of a knot video are knot nerds, and I just pissed them all off. But something that'll make it up. I am going to have my 100th newsletter that I put out every Saturday on May 31st. I'm putting together a really cool giveaway that I have to flesh out a few details, so I'm not gonna be able to tell them here. But how you will submit for that giveaway is going to be in the email. At the bottom of every email now, we have a giveaway, usually somewhere around $100, $100 to $200 of value. So the 100th email is going to have something that's extra special. Make sure you sign up, hownottto.com/sign up in order to not miss out on that. There will be no other way to enter your name in to win. So see you there. I might actually start tying this one. If you want to go see a figure 8 that I was able to make collapse because the way I finished it with the Yosemite finish, you should go check out that video next. Collapse it one more time, you can see that it undoes itself.